Welcome to the Starborne Awakening Library. Tonight's story is The Forgotten Key. At the center of a quiet village stood a locksmith's shop. It was a narrow little place filled with brass keys, iron locks, tiny tools, and clocks that never seemed to agree on the time. The locksmith who worked there was old, patient, and known for opening almost anything. Rusty gates, broken chests, ancient doors whose owners had long forgotten what waited behind them. But above his workbench hung one key he never used. It was small and silver, worn smooth by many years of handling. A thin layer of dust rested along its edge. Children often pointed to it. "What does that key open?" The locksmith would look up and smile. "I have been waiting for someone who needs it." Years passed. Some villagers believed it opened a royal treasure room. Others imagined a hidden tower beyond the mountains. A few were certain it belonged to a door that no longer existed, yet no one ever asked to take it. Then, on a rain-soaked afternoon, a young traveler entered the shop. Her boots were muddy, her coat was heavy with rain, and her face carried the weariness of someone who had searched too long. "I have gone from village to village," she said. "I have followed every road I could find, but I still feel as though something important is missing." The locksmith studied her quietly. Then he reached above his workbench and lifted the silver key from its hook. He wiped away the dust and placed it in her palm. "This may help." The traveler turned the key between her fingers. "What does it unlock?" The old man's eyes brightened. "That is not for me to discover." The traveler left the village with the key tucked safely inside her pocket. At first she felt certain she had been given something rare. Perhaps it would open the answer she had been seeking. She tried it on an abandoned gate at the edge of a forest. It did not fit. She tried it on a wooden chest inside an old inn. It would not turn. She tested it on forgotten doors, garden walls, iron boxes, and a chapel that had stood empty for generations. Nothing opened. Days became weeks. Her hope slowly hardened into frustration. Perhaps the locksmith was mistaken. Perhaps the key opened nothing at all. One evening, too tired to continue, she sat beneath an old oak tree. For the first time since leaving the village, she stopped searching. She watched the wind move through the branches. She heard birds calling to one another as they returned to their nests. She felt the cool air settle against her face, and beneath all of it, she noticed the quiet rhythm of her own breathing. Something inside her softened. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed. Not because she had found the right door, but because she finally saw what had kept every door closed. The search itself had become the lock. She had been moving so quickly toward the next answer that she had stopped seeing the life already around her. The key had not opened a gate, a chest, or a hidden room. It had opened a different way of looking. Several months later, the traveler returned to the locksmith's shop. The old man was seated at his bench, repairing a tiny brass lock. She placed the silver key gently before him. "I finally know what it opens." The locksmith looked at her face and saw that the weariness was gone. "I thought you might." He returned the key to its hook above the workbench. There it rested once more, quiet, patient, waiting for the next traveler who believed the answer must be somewhere else. Sometimes what keeps us from discovering life is not a locked door. Sometimes it is the way we have been looking for the key. Modern Fables for the Human Spirit. Starborne Awakening. Remember the light. Embody the light.